So letting the live stream get started. Eric here. I am excited to be going live and sharing some thoughts with you all. And just going to do a couple of quick tests here to see who all is joining me. So let me pop over and take a look at some of the platforms and see who's there. We're going to go live, officially get kicked off at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So I got another 2 minutes. I'm going to just check a couple of the things. So if you are hopping on and you are here, say hello and let me know. You see me over on LinkedIn, so that's cool. I'm going to go ahead and jump out of my Slack so we don't need to listen to that going on and on and on. So we're going to check a couple other things out. So we've got 1 minute, T-minus 1 minute. Today I want to talk about building an online community and sharing some of my thoughts and ideas on how to bring people together in the digital age. And since most physical events have pretty much gone by the wayside, how we're able to bring folks together through a digital community and building connections and interactivity that way. So let's see here. It looks like we might be right at the top of the hour. So I'm going to go ahead and just get kicked off. And those of you that join the restream or catch it on replay, welcome. Glad you're checking it out. And for those of you that are going to be coming in live, really excited to have you join me in person. Drop me a note. I'll do my best to keep an eye on the other screen so I can see when folks are joining and when I get some comments or some feedback. This is a little bit of an experiment for me as well. Normally, when you go live, it's probably best practice to do a little bit of pre-promotion and to throw some teasers out there and let everybody know exactly when you're going to go live. And I just recently got accepted into the LinkedIn Live platform. So I wanted to just do a little experiment and see if I didn't do a lot of pre-promotion, how visible a LinkedIn Live would actually be to my connections. I can see that there's a notification that went out. If you're connected with me on LinkedIn, you may very well have gotten a notification that Eric Cook is live. But I didn't do a lot of pre-promotion. We're using Restream, and I'm going live on LinkedIn. I'm going live on a couple of Facebook properties. I'm going live over Twitter. I call it Twitter Scope. Twitter and Periscope. And then also going live over on YouTube. So multiple platforms being able to go ahead and take this live. So the things that I want to talk about today, though, are my experience in creating somewhat of an online community via a webinar show that basically started in early of 2009. And it wasn't until probably 2 or 3 months ago that I made the decision to actually bring that reoccurring weekly webinar show to an end. And I'm going to give you a little background around how that actually created or how I created it, what inspired me to actually build that webinar series, the goods and the bads. And then I'm going to share with you a couple of communities that I'm familiar with in the world of Facebook, one that I'm an avid participant in, another one that I've got the good fortune of telling a story about, a community bank that actually created a pretty cool restricted private community for their PPP customers, which I thought was a brilliant idea. And then I'm going to brag a little bit about some of my friends over a platform called Social Bankers. And then lastly, I'm going to just, I guess, maybe retell the story to some of you that have heard me talk about our latest initiative, the LinkedBanker. But I'm going to give a shout out to a gentleman by the name of Pat Flynn over at Smart Passive Income and one of the new communities that he's created. Full disclosure, I'm not a member of that community, but I listen to a podcast, a lot of his podcasts actually, which I would recommend that you do as well, because he's a pretty smart dude and shares a lot of a lot of really, really good information. But Pat actually shared an idea or a concept around building a community and shared a platform that we've recently embraced as part of the LinkedBanker, and how that is kind of our next step initiative in building a community to try to bring like-minded people together. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to use the magic of Restream here, and hopefully while I'm clicking and showing screens, you're going to be able to see different sorts of things. But back in probably early 2009, late 2008, I had just departed the world of banking, and I decided I wanted to go pursue this passion for the internet, and I acquired a national license with WSI, the world's largest digital agency network, and I was looking for some ways that I could bring like-minded people together and to be able to share ideas and thoughts and concepts. And one of my good friends, Jeff Simpkins, he had basically become familiar with this book by Michael Port called Book Yourself Solid. And the whole concept around Michael Port's book is creating kind of a lead generation, a funnel, a sales strategy, even for people that aren't necessarily thinking of themselves as salespeople. And I came out of the banking industry, and even though I don't really think of myself as a salesperson, keeping people informed and educated about what's going on is really at the heart of what I do, and I think been really testament to our success as an agency over the last 13 years. And so one of Michael Port's ideas in this book, and he's got a lot of them, so I would recommend picking it up, listening to the audio. I think it's in its second or maybe even its third edition now. But one of his ideas, as you're talking to people and sharing thoughts about what it is that you do, not everybody's going to be ready to buy right at that particular moment in time. So his concept of creating something that you can always invite somebody to is a way to keep people connected and interacting with you. And so that could be the form of a podcast. It could be the form of an email newsletter. It could be a webinar series, but anything that somebody could participate in, to keep in touch with you, to learn what it is that you have to offer, and some insights around what it is that you're doing. And so we decided, Jeff and I, he came up to my house in Michigan, and we did some brainstorming, and we said, well, what if we did a webinar? What if we did weekly webinars? And of course, we played off of the W, and we decided we were going to do Wednesdays. And so that was really the genesis of Free Webinar Wednesdays. It was all based off of Michael Port, and Jeff had recently departed his position at Jack Henry and started a consulting practice. And so he and I worked closely together and partnered for a number of years on actually doing these Free Webinar Wednesdays together. And so within the world of Free Webinar Wednesdays, and the site is still basically what it was back in 2009. So even though as a digital agency, we probably could have done a whole lot better as it relates to the website itself, we really didn't put a whole lot of effort into the website. Our goal, our focus was really trying to create weekly webinars that would basically be of interest to small business owners and folks primarily in the financial services vertical, because that was really Jeff's niche, and it was certainly our niche, or niche to those of you that are joining from anywhere where you don't say niche. So we created this webinar series. We based it off of GoToWebinar, which unfortunately has a little bit of a limitation in the ability to create reoccurring webinars. And unfortunately, on 2 occasions, I had my entire list wiped out when the webinar expired and had to recreate it. And that happened a third time about a month and a half ago, which got me to the point where I just really wanted to question the necessity or the reason why I would still want to do traditional weekly webinars. Now, granted, in a COVID world, I've not been traveling nearly as much, but it was becoming very difficult to go live every single Wednesday at 1 p.m. And that was when we chose to take the webinars live. And, for the most part, since I think April 1st of 2009 was our very first show, for the most part, we were able to keep that show going. Jeff's priorities shifted a little bit. And so most of the shows, at least for the last couple of years, were ones that I was running independently of him and just primarily sharing some thoughts and ideas, bringing in some guest speakers and talking about certain things. But by and large, most of the responsibility for Free Webinar Wednesdays fell on my shoulders. But I did generate a lot of good relationships out of Free Webinar Wednesdays. It gave me something to talk about. If you and I had an interaction at a conference or an event or whatnot, and you weren't quite ready to make a move to digital marketing, or you weren't in a position where maybe your institution was ready for a new website or anything that would generate business for us as an agency, but we still wanted to keep in touch, there was an opportunity for us to be able to do that through Free Webinar Wednesdays. And I saw a lot of banker friends join on a regular basis, many of whom we just never really got the opportunity to do business with, but we created some good friendships, got some referrals, and I feel shared some good information that was able to help them down the road. And I'm a firm believer in karma, and the more that you give out to others and the more that you share information and what you know, the better it's going to bode for you down the road. And at some point, that sharing and that giving will come back and it will actually result in something beneficial for you. So Free Webinar Wednesdays was really the kind of the genesis of my first exposure into building an online community. I think we grew that to a little over 1,800 subscribers over the life of Free Webinar Wednesdays, and it was a really good run. But my goal with basically taking Free Webinar Wednesdays, taking a pause, it may come back down the road, it might shift and evolve. Our business strategy has really morphed into much more of a community bank centric focus. For a number of years, we were an agency that would do a lot of work with banks and community banks and community financial institutions, but we would take on other projects for other small businesses because some of our banks actually referred us to their customers. And while those didn't turn out terribly, they never went as well as when we did a bank project. And so realized, at least for 2020, that we were going to double down in the world of banking. And Free Webinar Wednesdays was one of those instances where we just decided, you know what, if this is going to continue to live and we're going to continue to do this, it really needs to have more of a focus on our niche and make sure that we're really serving the customers that we're here to serve. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when I get to Smart Passive Income and Pat Flynn and the whole concept of the LinkedBanker and that community. But building a webinar, building a podcast, building anything that you can provide on a reoccurring basis, I think is an excellent way to start that community and to be able to bring people together that are interested in like-minded ideas and other sorts of information. So if we fast forward to a few years, my wife and I kind of going into our next community that I want to share with you all over on Facebook. My wife and I made the decision a few years ago when we were down in Florida, after a couple of years of debating and deliberating, as to whether or not we wanted to be RV people. And we had seen the Winnebago View as kind of a motorhome. It's small, it's 24 feet-ish, can get into all the national parks, easy to drive. So we made the decision to jump in, and we call it our fancy dog hauler, because now when we travel and go down to visit my parents in Florida, we can take the dogs with us, our 2 golden retrievers, and it just makes for a really nice trip. We can tow a vehicle and take our bicycles and be a little bit more liberal with our time. And because we both work for the agency and the business, we don't really have to go into an office, although most people are working remotely these days anyway. But we can do a lot of traveling. We can get access pretty much anywhere, anytime. We can work from anywhere. So without the, I don't want to say the burden of children, but the responsibility, that's a better way of phrasing it. Without the responsibility of children, other than the 4-legged kind, we're able to continue and travel and do what we need to do, and to be able to kind of make ourselves mobile. And so while I was in Grand Rapids getting service, I had a conversation with someone who was also in the service department getting some work done on their Winnebago View. And we got to talking, and he said, "Oh, are you part of the Winnebago View group on Facebook?" And acknowledged that I was not, and asked him about it and how do I join. And I will tell you that this is probably, and I can jump into this and I can read threads. And if you go through and take a look at any of these, you will make a post into this group, and literally within 15 or 20 minutes, there are at least a dozen responses back from people all over the country that are passionate about their view, that are helpful, that have been around for a long time, owned multiple views, giving you feedback and advice on things like electrical and anything else. And this was really a fish out of water experience for me when we bought our view, and wish that I had known about this the first year, because there were a number of pretty silly mistakes that I made that would have been nice to have had this group in order to bounce some things off of. And so this is kind of the first real in your face example of being part of a community that ties people together with a specific, I guess, point of interest that really kind of hits home. And I thought, whether your passion is golf or mountain biking or fly fishing or hunting or whatever it is that you like to do, if you're not exploring these community opportunities through Facebook groups or other sorts of online channels, I think you're missing out on an opportunity to really enrich yourself and to learn new things and to really meet new people. So when I had the opportunity, I think it was back in 2016, there was the first iteration, and it only lasted for a couple of years, but it was called Bank Social Media Conference. And the first year they had it out in New Jersey, just at a hotel right close to the airport. Wanted to make it really easy in, easy out. It certainly was not a sexy venue by any stretch of the imagination. But at that Bank Social Media Conference, John Siracusa, who now hosts a very successful Bank On It podcast, he was the creator of Bank Social Media Conference. And so he and I became friends online. He asked me to facilitate a panel discussion. And so I had a number of digital guests, and we asked a lot of questions. And one of those was a community institution based out of Texas, I believe. And they shared one of the very first, and this is before I discovered my View group, but they shared the very early stages of creating a Facebook group that was designed specifically for members of their travel rewards checking program. And so it was like a travel club. People would go on these trips. They would come back into the group and they would share photos. But until they had the group, they would have kind of lackluster participation in the travel. And so the people that were part of this checking account program were typically 55 or better. They might have been, at the almost retirement or maybe retirement age, some discretionary income. And so the trips that they would go on were, pretty cool trips. They would go to Europe, they would go to wine country, they would go to, Washington, D.C. and visit the Capitol, just different sorts of unique places that people would want to go to. But when they had the idea of building this Facebook group around the concept of this travel checking program, this club account, when people came back and the first group attended an event and they traveled and they took pictures and they came back, and while they were on the group, the chaperone from the institution actually encouraged them to say, "Hey, we're going to create a group. We want you to all be a part of it on Facebook. We want you to come back and share some of your pictures and talk about your experience and what you liked about it and give us some feedback." So they had a moderator and someone that was from the institution that was helping to spark conversations and to build participation. And so when they came back, the individuals that didn't go on the trip started seeing all the pictures and the posts and started asking questions and what kind of restaurants did you eat in and how much free time did you have. And so as they started talking, the people that went on the group actually were selling participation in future events down the road. because people got a sense of what it was really like, almost that FOMO, that fear of missing out, if you will, where people got really excited and said, I'm not going to miss out on the next trip because it sounds like everybody had a blast. I'm looking at all the pictures, everybody's smiling and having a good time. And so once the momentum really started going, they reported that pretty much every event from that point forward didn't have a problem selling out. And in fact, they would go to capacity very quickly, which created a different challenge where people, almost had to make sure you were paying attention, because once a trip was announced, you had like a day or two to be able to jump on it, or you missed the boat. Which I guess would even be more appropriate if they were offering cruises, but you would miss the opportunity to actually be a part of that group. And so that was one of the communities that this institution created in order to be able to build some of that exclusivity, but be able to get people together that were part of the same institution, part of the same account program, love travel, and so be able to pull them together. Now, I told that story recently as part of the digital banking school with the Graduate School of Banking. And in that 4-week course where we had 2 sessions a week for 4 weeks, I went ahead and told that story and shared that concept and just challenged the bankers that were part of that program. There were 50 banks that registered for that digital banking school. And I challenged them to think about what sorts of things could you do to pull people together that would create a commonality, a similar interest. And I know one of the things when Facebook made a big push last year at their F8 conference about rolling out groups and bringing people together and share ideas, they talked about providing the ability for you to participate in a group that might be more medically orientated, and how you could participate in that group anonymously. So if you wanted to jump into a group and share a question or ask something, but you don't necessarily want people to know who it is, or that you're asking the specific question about, maybe what's the rash on my elbow? That's probably not the type of question that you would be embarrassed about, but you kind of get the picture. But then that would give you the ability to say a Facebook user is just simply asking a question, and so participating anonymously. So in my mind, as I'm talking about these things, I'm thinking of ways that you can bring people in and talk about budgeting or applying for a mortgage loan, those sorts of things. Well, I'm pretty excited that the folks over, and I'm going to share this for you here real quick. The folks over at First Federal Lakewood, they reached out to me and shared that they were inspired by hearing some thoughts and ideas around building a private group and to being able to pull people together in a community. And I'm in the process of working on a blog post to document some of this as well. So stay tuned, because I'll share that out through our website and make sure that it goes out to a LinkedIn article. But First Federal of Lakewood, if you go into their platform, you can take a peek. And I'm going to click next and get started. Okay, now it looks like Facebook is deciding to make a change to me. So all this other stuff's going on. So it looks like maybe I'm getting the update. So now I go to groups, and you can see they actually created a private group for their PPP customers. And so their PPP customers were invited. I think they had close to, when I saw it the first time, there was right around 80 individuals that had signed up for this. Now you can see there's over 113, 2 posts this week. I'm not a PPP loan customer at First Federal Lakewood, so I'm not going to be able to subscribe or to join this group. But I am going to be having a conversation with the folks tomorrow and just get a little bit more insight on what's going on within their PPP group and how they're using it to be able to bring people together, to answer questions, to create consistency, ease the burden of anybody that got PPP financing as to what's going on. How is the repayment process going to work? What about the forgiveness? All the different sorts of things that are going on around this. We had one other institution that we work with that did something similar. They didn't do it in a Facebook group, but they actually created a community through text messaging. And so they created a text message group that had, I think at the onset, maybe 75 of their small business customers, all their commercial lenders, basically got together with their business customers, got their cell phone numbers, put them into a group, And then we worked with them on creating a text message notification platform using the service Mobile Monkey. And that allowed for them to create a community through text messaging to share information and ideas. People could subscribe to that. And they have since increased that. Now they're doing a book club through text messaging and a few other things that they're exploring. So it's really pretty cool to see how that whole community process is coming together. You identify something of commonality. It gives you the ability to create a consistent thread and some information that would resonate with a common audience. And then that's going to give you the ability to build that dialogue and to bring everybody together that much more tightly, which I think is really cool and what you want to do in this, COVID world where everybody is socially distanced and we don't get a chance to see each other very often any longer. So the next community that I'm really excited to be part of, because I'm learning a ton, it's giving me a great opportunity to kind of relive my bank marketing roots and connect with bank marketers from around the country. Did I mention this is live? So yes, there are going to be some misspokes and some tongue tieds, but that's what being live is all about. This is not a polished, formal video by any stretch of the imagination. But the platform that I'm also really excited that I get to be a part of is a platform and a group over here called Social Bankers. So this came out of an ICBA event a couple of years ago. A number of bank marketers thought that it would be really cool to create a group that would allow people to connect with one another and stay in touch. And there is a restriction within the group that banks in competing market areas really can't join. So you've got some a geographic protection, if you will. So if I've got a bank in Marshall, Michigan, another banker from Marshall, Michigan isn't going to be invited into that specific opportunity. So it gives you a really great way as a bank marketer. And if you are a bank marketer and you're listening to this and you're not part of this and you're interested in being part of something really cool, you can certainly reach out and do a join, and then that sends a message into the platform. But what we're doing within Social Bankers is really cool, because I'm fortunate to be one of just a few non-bankers, although I think everybody that's a non-banker was a banker or had banking lineage or serves banks at one point. But we are, I think there's 3 of us now, maybe 4 of us, that are non-bankers that are part of the group. And you can kind of go through and get a sense of the people that are part of the Social Bankers, community. And so we are participating through a Slack workspace, which is our version of our community. We bounce ideas off of one another. We've got things where we're, leaning on each other as it relates to, bad news as it relates to COVID, challenges with your supervisor, all sorts of different things. There's a ton of different channels that have been created, and there is a reoccurring weekly live video where everybody that is available can get together and work with one another and have a chat, and we'll do trivia and other sorts of things. So it's an excellent way that bank marketers are coming together and helping one another, because most of the individuals that are part of this are from smaller shops where they might only be the sole marketing person. And so in order to be able to get feedback and insight, you might not have other marketing people within your own organization that you can bounce ideas off of. And so the Social Bankers platform gives us that environment. And so as a provider of services to the banking space, it's also nice for myself and Ben and the others that would be participating. So if I go through here, Amber over at FMS, Ben Pankinen, and myself, and then Michael just recently left the bank and jumped on the other side. So now he's got his own thing going on. And so it's been really cool to be a part of this and to be able to help offer up ideas and thoughts and just to be part of the community, and just to see how the community cohesiveness is really leaning on each other and helping one another solve problems and feedback and posting a couple of graphics. And what do you think about this one versus this one? Do you like the right or the left? It's just created a really cool community. The last thing that I want to talk about is, and this is not really intended to sell you on the whole concept of the LinkedBanker, although I am wearing a shirt, and if you'd like to join, I'd love to have you. But the whole concept around the LinkedBanker as being a community to help bankers figure out certain things that I'm very passionate about. And so there's a guy by the name of Pat Flynn. And for those of you that might have heard my LinkedBanker story before, you can go ahead and get yourself, it's probably too late in the day for coffee for some of you, although I'll drink coffee all night long. But if you want to refresh your cup of water or whatever, but Pat Flynn there in the middle has a website called Smart Passive Income. He's big on affiliate marketing. He's a huge podcaster. He's all about sharing knowledge and helping people run their business. He's very transparent. When he was an affiliate marketer, he was sharing all of his income statements and his commissions and just being totally, here's how much money I'm making, here's how I'm doing it. And I've yet to run across someone online that is as big of a giver and a helper as what Pat is. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are doing the same thing. I just might not be familiar with them. So in 2018, I went to Social Media Marketing World in San Diego, and he was the closer, and he was talking about the whole concept of who is it that you are put on this planet to serve, and where are your raving fans, and what do you know best, and what is your passion? And at that moment, a light bulb went off while I was sitting in San Diego in the big convention center amongst 6,500 of my closest social media marketing friends. I think that's the size of the conference, somewhere around there. And on the plane on the way home, the idea of the LinkedBanker popped into my head, because I love nothing more than to help bankers figure out ways that they can link to their customers and their community and their prospects and their connections using social technology and being able to essentially build those relationships online. And so came up with the idea for the LinkedBanker. I don't know as if it was necessarily the safest thing to do, but I hopped on Delta's Go Wi-Fi in flight, and I bought the domain, thelinkbanker.com, and I brainstormed the whole thing. And then I sat on it for 2 years and I didn't do anything. And I was pretty embarrassed that I didn't do anything. I was able to see Pat as one of the last events for 2020 in San Diego at Social Media Marketing World. I had a conversation with him. He gave me some inspiration, a little bit of kick in the butt, if you will. And when I returned home and then COVID hit, I said, this is going to be the year that it's going to happen. And so one of the things that inspired me to do is to finally get off my butt and actually launch the LinkedBanker.com and create this mentoring community specifically for bankers to help them understand how to use all these digital tools. And the misconception, and some of this is the word linked is in there. So sometimes it's perceived that it's really just focused on LinkedIn, when in reality it's not. It's any of the platforms and any of the technologies that you can use to help you create that link with yourself and the audience that you want to connect with. It can be blogging, it can be Twitter, it can be LinkedIn, it can be video like this, audio, you name it. There's lots of different ways that you can link and connect with your connections and to be able to be relevant and provide helpful information to be seen as that thought leader. So one of the things that I heard Pat talking about as he was going through some of his podcasts and sharing some ideas of what's going on over at Smart Passive Income is this whole concept of SPI Pro, and to be able to take the concept of all the information that he shares just by the general course of, his thought leadership and everything else that he does, and to be able to take that and to build more of a dedicated community where business professionals could apply and be able to get accepted into this SPI Pro program. And what he has done is he's actually built, and he's an advisor to this platform as well. So, it doesn't surprise me that he's going this direction, but I'm certain that when Circle came out with their concept, they reached out to a number of influencers and thought leaders and said, Pat is probably someone that we need to get on board. We'd like to share this idea and concept with him. And he's been pretty excited about it for his SPI Pro program. And so we've actually moved forward at LinkedBanker, and we've created and based off of Circle. So if you're looking for, now I mentioned social bankers, and they've gone ahead and put together a great Slack workspace with lots of different channels. It's the free version, no limitations, and it works great. The world of Facebook has Facebook groups, and Facebook groups are another way that you can bring people together, create a community, and that works great. In fact, I'm the advisor for a number of state banking association marketing forums where we get together on a regular basis. And in between our regular meetings, which are all happening via Zoom now, but in between our regular meetings, each one of those states that I help facilitate has its own Facebook group that we've created. So it keeps us connected that way. So Facebook groups is a great way to do it. But if you're looking to take it kind of to the even next level, a platform like Circle is one that you might be interested in taking a look at. Now, we've got a similar platform within the WSI ecosystem where we're using Facebook's Workplace, which is their private ecosystem that's it's non-promoted. You pay on a per member. I think it's like $3 per user per month that our corporate in Toronto pays. But that's our private community. It allows for us to come together and share ideas and insights. And if I've got a project I have a question on, or somebody needs help because they're talking to a community bank somewhere in the country, we can check in and we can help one another with posts and ideas and thoughts and video and imagery and whatnot. So that's another community that you could explore as a way to pull yourself together and to help make it a little bit more helpful and tight. But Circle is one that we are really excited about. And I would encourage you, you can see there's Pat compared to his picture here. You can see he's rocking the COVID beard. Not nearly as gray as what I've got going on here, but I think I've got a couple of years on Pat anyway, so I'm not going to throw stones. But you can go through and take a look at some of the cool things that the Circle platform is able to do. You can sign up for a free 14-day trial. We actually launched ours, ran through the trial. We participated in a really awesome training session last week where the founders of Circle actually came in for 60 minutes and shared some ideas. And so now over at community.thelinkbanker.com, we've actually created our own community. And so individuals that are part of the LinkedBanker that are paying for that monthly subscription can get into the members only area where they can introduce themselves. You've got profiles, all sorts of other cool things that can go on. But it's got that combination of a social network, of a Slack, of a private environment. There's no advertisements. Because it's a paid service, we can do a lot more. And not that I suspect that there's going to be any limitations as it relates to Slack related to social bankers, and I'm on Slack channels for a number of other groups as well. But this is just a little bit more branded to our organization. And you can see the other cool part about this is as the Circle community gains in popularity, that when you start participating in one circle, if others are there, you can see this is the actual Circle community over at Circle. And so because we're a paying member of the Circle platform, we can get in and we've got access to all of these other areas as well. So getting started, specific topics, you can go into the introductions, just gives us the ability, and I've logged out because my session is timed out. But that just gives us the ability to be part of that Circle community as well, which has been really, really cool. So those are some of my thoughts on building a community. And just like I really didn't intend for the bank to come up with their own idea of creating a community for PPP, telling a story, sharing a thought, maybe is going to spark you with a way of, are there customers, are there prospects, are there community people that you would like to be able to have a closer connection with, and to be able to tie back to you, your organization, you as an individual, whether you're a lender, whether you're a business development officer, a branch manager, CEO, whatever your role is, thinking about ways that you can bring people in, not necessarily to monetize that, not necessarily to figure out a way that you can, charge them money for it, but are there ways that you can bring people in to share your knowledge, to lend some expertise. If you can figure out a way and you're comfortable with, putting some sort of a membership fee around that, then that's fine. Although I suspect most of you that are listening to this are probably coming out of my banking community. So it wouldn't make sense for you to try to create a community that you would want to monetize. Think about ways that you can bring your customers and your clients in, and to be able to have them be part of something special, and have individuals within your institution actually be there to lead the conversation, to facilitate the discussions, to spark the, ideas and thoughts. And we're still at the very early stages of our own Circle community over at the LinkedBanker. So we're still figuring out, well, what's it going to take to get people to participate? They haven't rolled out their mobile app yet, and people are on their mobile devices quite often. So I know that's going to be one of the things that will help just from a technological perspective. But how do you spur a discussion, generate some thoughts, get people to participate? It's like having a cocktail party, if you will, and you need to be a really good host or a hostess, and to be able to introduce people and get folks to be able to interact with each other and have some dialogue and some discussion. So I'm going to just quickly check over and see. So I can see, I should have had this up before. So Byron, yes, the beard is amazing. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I'm going to do some probably Christmas jingles. I don't know. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, but they've got those little beard ornaments. What do you think? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. We'll see. We'll see what we think. So, and actually check that out. So I'm still learning Restream, trying to figure this platform out. So you can see over here, boom, Byron giving you some nice shout there. So now if I click on that again, hide messages. There we go. Like I said, still learning the platform, but this is one of the communities that I'm trying to develop. And sometimes you gotta basically build the bike while you're riding it. So FX, bonjour, mon ami. I hope I said that right. And if I didn't, I'm going to blame that on Madame Berryhill, my high school French teacher. So I don't know if you're still watching from France, but it's really cool to see you joining. Hopefully you're getting some excitement for your big skiing. I follow you on Instagram and all of your awesome adventures. So Scott McComb is totally calling me a salesperson. I learned from the best, my fellow GSB graduate. I probably just listened to you one too many times. So, but thank you, sir, for the comment. Let's see here. Someone popped in, but got to run and feed the kids, which is totally expected. Like I said, this was a little bit last minute. There we go. There's Doug Alicious, my buddy Doug also. So we're multinational. We've got France, we've got Canada, we've got the United States. This is pretty awesome. So, and I guess my fear of whether or not this would be seen on LinkedIn has been addressed, because as I'm going through the live stream comments, even though I push this live across LinkedIn, multiple Facebook. I think I went to the WSI Facebook page, the LinkedBanker Facebook page, and my own Facebook profile, as well as Twitter, Periscope, and YouTube. So far, all of the questions and comments and live interaction has come directly from LinkedIn. So it's really cool to see that happening. And I so appreciate you guys chiming in and saying hello. So that's really all that I wanted to chat about, other than if anybody got some really super deals on Cyber Monday, because, you've got a few hours left before that ticker expires. I have yet to go out and do my Cyber Monday shopping, but I've got my Amazon bookmarked, and I'm going to be going there. By way of public service announcement, I would encourage you, if you're not using smile.amazon.com, make sure that when you go to Amazon, you put that URL in, and then you can pick a charity of your choice, and a very small percentage, but little small percentages across a lot of purchases make a big difference. But if you go to smile.amazon.com, you can select a charity. And if you're looking for a charity that you would like to support, I know you probably would have something that maybe is passionate for you. I would recommend the Children's Neuroblastoma Cancer Foundation. I have very dear friends who lost their daughter at the age of at the age of 9 to neuroblastoma, and it sucks. And so anything that I can do to help support the CNCF, I do, which means spending extra money today of all days, but anytime. I feel no guilt going out to Amazon and using that Smile account, because I can see that a portion of that is helping out to support the Children's Neuroblastoma Foundation. So cool. Byron, yeah. So let me show you again here. So the LinkedIn push notification coming through. When LinkedIn Live originally released, that was not the case. And so I just got access into this private beta. I think the 6th time I asked, they finally got tired of me asking and said, fine, go ahead, you can have it. And that was right about the time I decided that I would stop doing live weekly webinars on Free Webinar Wednesdays. And so I got in, and this is my first one, and excited that they're starting to make those a little bit more visible to everybody. So that's pretty cool as well. So anyway, that I think does it for what I wanted to talk about today. It's been almost 45 minutes, and I appreciate those of you that hopped on and were part of the live stream, being part of my conversation. Hopefully I gave you some things to think about. I'll be very curious if after you get done, if you can think about different ways that you can build a community with your audience. Who is it you want to influence? Who do you want to bring under the fold of your wing to be able to take care of them, to build conversations, to create reputation and relevancy? Hit me up. Many of you are on LinkedIn already, so hit me up and let me know what you think. Post a comment, because this video will go as a video on my feed. So share your thoughts and observations there. I would love to hear what you're doing and be able to feature you as a success story, just like I've talked about First Federal of Lakewood and a few others. So with that, enjoy the remainder of your Cyber Monday. Go out to smile.amazon.com or the retailer of your choice, support the economy, and get yourself some deals. And if you find anything really cool that's got an electronic bent to it, hit me up with a direct message and let me know. I always love a good electronic squirrel that I can chase. So cool. All right. I think that is it. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks again for joining me. You guys are awesome. And I'm going to click on this big orange finish button, and that's going to shut me off for the night. So we'll see you on my next live stream. Bye for now.